Everyone knows Adelaide is booming. The property market is going nuts. But what are the next suburbs to boom? What are the ones that haven't gone up too much that are going to perform the best over the next 6 to 12 months? Okay, if you're interested in that and where to invest in Adelaide to make a lot of equity in the short term, then carry on watching. All right, guys, I'm not going to fluff around too much today. So I just want you to give this video a subscribe because really, I don't think there's anyone that makes content like this, all right? There's no one in Australia, podcasts or YouTube or articles or anyone that makes this kind of content. So I'm so grateful you're with me. Give it a subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Super appreciate it. Let's get into it, okay? So once again, this is core logic data. And what I'm going to show you is the ripple effect. I just did a video on the best suburbs or the next suburbs to boom in Perth. I'll link it right here. This one's all about Adelaide. So if you're in Sydney, Melbourne, priced out, right, you're open to interstate buying as you should be, you want to stick to a capital city, Adelaide is one of the best places to invest right now. I remember 2 years ago when we started investing in Adelaide, maybe 2.5 years ago, I had to convince my clients of the merits of the data because previous to that, Adelaide was dead for 5, 6 years. And they've all made $200,000, $250,000, those who bought 2.5 years ago. But there's still potential in Adelaide, according to the ripple effect. The ripple effect simply says, okay, what are the next suburbs to boom? So let's get into it. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the legend. So the darker the box, the more expensive the suburb. The lighter or the more red the box, the cheaper the suburb. So the theory goes that expensive suburbs get more and more expensive and then affordability caps out, and so that wave of growth ripples to the next affordable or cheaper place or a suburb. Now, this doesn't always occur, and this isn't the only way or the exclusive layer in which we analyze suburbs. I mean, not even a tenth of it, or not even a 20th of it, I would say, or even less, but it's still nonetheless interesting. Okay, it still points us in somewhat of the right direction. Okay, so it's not gospel, but it should allow you to identify some pockets to do further deep dive. So according to this, okay, now, and I'll take you through two layers, this and another legend. According to this, what we're seeing is that this is obviously central Adelaide, very expensive, and you can see this part here is red, so it's not as expensive as these purples. And then you've got this area here which is even more lighter red or even less expensive. So if the ripple effect is true, which it is, not all the time, there's considerations of affordability and income levels need to be similar between two neighboring suburbs for the ripple effect to actually occur. But if that's true, you can see that this wave of growth that Redwood Park, Salisbury Heights, Pooraka, Valley View, all these have had is going to and is already transferring through to this lighter red like Salisbury Downs, Parafield, Paralowie, Burton, etc., etc. Now, you can't just say, all right, great, I know the data, I'm going to go invest here, because even though Elizabeth East, Craigmore, Blakeview, all these areas have the same color of red as Salisbury, there are other factors that what I'm teaching you right now, doesn't cover. For example, building approvals. There's more than, I think, 1,000 building approvals in Anglevale. So you got to be really careful of that, right? Supply is the enemy of growth. Building approvals mean supply. You can check all this stuff out. It's free on the public domain. And then on the west side, you've got obviously expensive suburbs. You can see here, and locals will tell you that there are some reasons why some suburbs are cheaper than others, but you can see here that there's expensive pocket here, an expensive pocket here, and then potentially the suburb called Grange has some catching up to do. And even in here, you've got more catching up to do. What I find really exciting, really interesting is this little pocket here, Morphett Vale, Hackham, which is flanked on the west side, on the east side, on the north side, on the south side by more expensive pockets, and this is not as expensive. Now, that doesn't mean you can just buy in Morphett Vale with your eyes closed. Morphett Vale is a big suburb, plenty of good areas, plenty of not so good areas, everything like this you can tell from data. You don't need a local buyer's agent or anything like that. You can identify the right pocket, the right street using data, but I'm just trying to make the point that this is a fantastic way to understand what's going on in the market. Now, the next layer I want to take you through, because this is super interesting, is the 12-month median growth rate. Okay, so here in the dark purple, you can see the areas in Adelaide that have grown more than 40%, and then the redder it is, or the less purple or red, blue it is, the less it's grown. So the lighter shade means it's grown less. So this is another way to understand the ripple effect by looking at change on change, 12-month change as opposed to absolute values. All right, and once again, you can see that same sort of insight that we saw before, how the Salisbury area was, showing a lot of good potential. That exists as well. This is Salisbury right here. You've got, some areas that have grown a little bit more. So I mentioned Paralowie before. You can actually see that according to this, it's grown a lot. But then right next to it down here, Salisbury, especially Salisbury Heights, it hasn't grown that much, okay? Same with Redwood Park. On an absolute level, it was quite expensive, but on a relative level, it hasn't grown as much as, let's say, around Para Vista or Modbury North or Ingle Farm. So these are ways in which you can find that, short-term growth. We want short-term growth. That's what we must have as property investors, not just this buy and hope for the long term. We need to use data. And same here, you can see the similar sort of phenomenon. We talked about Grange before. It has grown less than Manly. What is this? Henley Beach. And then you've got these other really interesting pockets, actually. A lot of people forget about this sort of peninsula, you could almost say, of western side of Adelaide. But I can tell you, in this area around Taparoo, etc., we've bought, dozens and dozens of properties. In fact, in Adelaide, we probably bought more than 200, 250 properties. My clients, that is, over the last 2.5 years. And so if you're a client, high five, you've done well. You can see the areas that we've bought and how well they've performed. But let's just go back down to Ranella, Morfett Vale. You can see, this area has grown a lot. And some of these areas like Happy Valley, which we've invested a lot as well, have grown. But then there's some better opportunities now in places like Old Ranella. Okay, and even if you come down to the beach side, Seaford is more expensive now, negative geared territory, as is this area, but this is less, has grown less than Seaford. And Port Noarlunga, which is flanking it on the north and south. So, it's kind of that sandwich effect. You've got this bread up here, you've got this bread up here. Some point, someone's going to take that sandwich and squeeze it and put it in their mouth, and that reason, or that's the rationale for this pocket to grow. So, once again, this isn't an exhaustive analysis. This doesn't mean that you should just buy in the areas that I've mentioned, but these are the areas that will boom, that are more likely to boom in the short term, that are the next cabs off the rank, that haven't grown already too much for the average investor. I can tell you, for my clients, most of Adelaide is past the buying window. When it comes to investing in property, there's where to buy, right? And why to buy. Those are very interesting. But the most important thing in many respects is when to buy. So ideally, we want to be buying towards the bottom of the market, and most of Adelaide is Gonskis now. But if you're in Sydney or in Melbourne, you want to stick to a capital city. Look, in the next 6 months to next 2 years, you'll do so much worse than buying in the areas that I've sort of just outlined there. Now, none of this is obviously financial advice, but I do hope that it improves your education level, because no one else is really doing this type of content. Now, if you want the same type of video on Brisbane, leave Brisbane in the comments below, type it out, and if I get 20 enough comments, and maybe 25 comments, people saying Brisbane, then I'll do that video on Brisbane. But if you've missed the Perth one, go check that out. That was the last video. This is Adelaide. I hope it brought you a bunch of value, and I've got a few exciting things coming on this channel, so I won't preempt them now, but I'm pretty excited to take this community, or you guys, to the next level with me. All right, guys, well, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on. And as usual, my podcast, Facebook group, more than 14,000 people, and all the, free education links are below. Don't miss that. Just open up the description, follow them, and so you can actually get more gold nuggets just like this. My name's PK, and I genuinely, there's so many snakes, so many charlatans in the property space. I sincerely hope that, this is actually bringing you value. All right, guys, catch you later.